And it's mystery night because it's been my little project for a while and my little secret. And I actually thought that I was the first person to think of this ever. I Googled it and I couldn't find anybody who had done this. And I was like, how is it even possible in this day and age to Google anything and not come up with a full slate of examples and people who have done it before? So you might remember that I wrote an article for the National Magazine a year or so ago about my road trip across the country, meeting other turners and turning with them. So I sent the editor a letter and I was like, I've got a new idea and nobody else has done this. So he sent me back a link to the woman who has done it and demoed it nationally, and the magazine that it appeared in, and also the fact that it's been done since 1 BC. So the Greeks and Romans started this a while back, it turns out. This is how they did portraiture on the encasements for mummies. So it's actually one of the original forms of art, but very few people have done it on bowls. So you're probably familiar with something called encaustic art. And there's a lot of encaustic artists out there. But for whatever reason, it just hasn't occurred to a lot of them yet that bowls are a wooden structure. Most of them paint on wooden substrates and panels, and they hang in museums. I mean, it's a recognized, beautiful form of art. It uses beeswax and damar resin, which is what hardens it up, and mixed with paints, like oil paints, and they paint with it. The reason that it was done on mummy things was because it preserves so beautifully. It's beeswax. Really, the only thing that you want to be careful about is heat. So it will start to melt at about 160 degrees. So if you take a bowl that you've done and you leave it in a hot car, it could begin to soften somewhat. It may or may not get to 160 in there. I've got a handout, and I don't know if we've got more than 30 people here tonight or not. So, okay, so share if it runs out before it gets to you. Kind of what I did when I started thinking about this was I got on Google, and since I couldn't find encaustic bowls, I just started to look for decorated bowls of any type. Well, there's lots of people that have used beautiful painting techniques on various surfaces. These aren't all bowls, but I just started an idea file. So I just kind of wanted to flip through here with you so that you can start to see in your head how beautiful some of these ideas might be on bowls. This, I'm just going to flip through here. So I went through Pinterest, I went through Instagram, and I started looking for ideas of things that might look cool on bowls. You can do any texture that you like. You can create a really smooth molten texture, or you can create a texture like this. Almost anything that you can paint, you can do with this technique. So again, these are just, a lot of these are ceramics. None of these are encaustic wax. I just thought that was cool. Wouldn't that be cool to put like macrame on top of a turning bowl? But all of these, I just think that they would be really beautiful as bowls. So I've started to play. And I know that you guys love your precision. And it's why you recognize that my bowls have a really long way to go, because precision is not my strong suit. So I have a long way to go when it comes to sanding, and I have a long way to go when it comes to getting rid of every tool mark. This is not a great pastime if you're too fixated on precision, because the beeswax moves. You're going to heat it, and it's going to move around a little bit, but that's part of the beauty of it, is it's an evolution. So it kind of finds its own happy place. So go ahead and throw precision out the window and just decide, all right, I know I was 5 once upon a time. I was capable play then, so I'm going to see what that might be like now. So again, you can kind of get the idea from here that if you can imagine it, you can try it. Now I want to show you the woman that was profiled in the National Magazine. Her name is Helga Winter, and she is up north of Seattle, and I'm actually going to train with her this fall. So first I have to go do this little thing called Hike the PCT. So April 30, some of you know, I'm going to start hiking the trail from Mexico to Canada, and it's going to take me 5 months. So I'm going to be gone for a little while, but when I finish that, I've already spoken with Helga, and she and I have started to communicate, and she doesn't turn anymore. So this is no longer something that she does, but she's kind of the one that did it well. These are turned objects that she did put encaustic on. One of the things that really excites me is all those things that we toss out in the yard now, the broken pieces and the things that we don't think there's any use for, she has turned into art that has been put into museums. So you don't have to throw away all of those things. You can encausticize them. I just think these are very beautiful. These are madrone, and you know how madrone can move if you turn it super thin. She has also created a way to make a paper product. I think that top one is actually paper that's been encausticized. But these are just beautiful. So this is what we're going to play with tonight, is something like that. And just so that y'all know, since I mentioned I'm going to do the trail, if you are interested in following any of the things that I do with my wood turning are on my Instagram, that is at the U-Turner. I'm the U-Turner because when I hear a chainsaw, I do a U-turn, just like you guys do. Go back and see what they're cutting down. My PCT Instagram is PCT 2020 Tell Me No. Everybody has a trail name on trail, and somebody else gives it to you. I was given Tell Me No because they found out that if you tell me no, I'm going to do it, by God. So I'm Tell Me No. All right, so I'm just going to, pull up that one. We'll just leave that there for a little while. So what is all this? This is basically my husband's nightmare. When we moved here, I didn't know that wood turning was a thing, but I kind of sort of liked to paint. So we took a little shed on our property and we converted it into an art studio. And I began to put all the things that I had accumulated in there, and it's basically every kind of art that you can come up with. Well, before we finished the last bit of it, I discovered wood turning. And y'all know how addictive it is, so I kind of dove right into that. And then I moved down to the barn and took what had been the hay barn and added 2 lathes and a bandsaw taller than I am, and a chainsaw, and dove into that. So now I have a shed for art and a shop for wood turning, and the garage, of course, because where are you going to store all of that extra wood? And now there's a table in our living room that is encaustic. So I've taken just about everything that I enjoy and poured it into one thing, which I love it. That's what I love about play, is you just get to see what might happen. So I want to kind of walk through a few of these things with you so that you'll understand some of the possibilities. This is a sack of flakes, and I made shellac out of these. So these are shellac flakes, and if you know what shellac is, it actually is a fully natural product that comes from a bug. So you just basically put it in denatured alcohol, and in a few days you have shellac. Well, the cool thing, I can't demo that because it has a chemical reaction, but I want to show you what it looks like when you put a layer of wax down and then you paint shellac over it and then you take your torch to it. So this can be done on bowls. Let me see that. Are we live? Perfect. Okay. So as you apply the heat, the shellac separates into this cool webbing. Now I tried hide it on a bowl. It takes practice to get good at it. I don't completely love this one yet, but I'm going to pass it around so that you can kind of see where you might go. And again, don't judge my bowls because this is so new to me. I'm practicing on my bowls that I would otherwise throw away. So you'll find imperfections, but take them for what they're worth. All right.
This spinach, is it potable?
Is it what?
Can you eat off of it?
You can. It's all natural. So this is just beeswax. And on the inside, there's nothing. So the inside is not finished in any way yet. I don't even think.
You don't do anything to the inside, just the outside?
Yes. You can. You can do the inside. The only reason that I haven't done the inside yet, like you could see from some of Helga's, they're very beautifully, done inside as art. I like to use my bowls, so that's the reason that I don't do the inside of mine. But you would want to be cautious about what you use them for. You put oranges in them, but I wouldn't put something hot in them because the heat would react. Yeah.
Are they dishwasher safe?
No, they're not. This you know. This right here is beeswax and, as I said, Demar resin, yes. You can make your own, so you can actually go to University Art in Sacramento, or you can order off of Amazon, and you can buy those separately. I don't do that. That gets a little messy. You can also order a sack of what is called Encaustic medium, and this already has the Demar resin already melted in, and it's just these little pellets. And you put the pellets onto a heating element. So I just got a pancake griddle. You can go all the way up to a $300 formal one that's for Encaustic artists, and you can put paints directly on it, and then you can lay a sheet of paper on there and peel it off, and then it's made its own art. So there are a lot of Encaustic artists that do that. You can also get a crock pot. All you need is something that's going to melt, but you really want something that has an adjustable temperature and also a little thermometer so you can see what that temperature is. So I got this little, maybe this is going to be hot, just a grill top thermometer, and it tells me I'm shooting for anywhere from 180 degrees to 215-ish seems to be my happy place for a melting point. I looked specifically for a pancake griddle that would allow me to go between warm to 200 to 250, and I can mess around with it a little bit until this is melting just the way that I like. You also, did I pass those things out? I did, good. So you can see the supply list. This heat gun, they have Encaustic heat guns.
Yeah.
You can also go to Ace Hardware, and this is what you would use to take wallpaper off of your walls. It's got 2 settings, which is nice. It's better than just having one that's too hot. So you'll see how we use that. You can also use a little creme brulee torch for applying your heat. Or you can use that propane torch that you use for ovenizing your bowls. So heat is going to be a necessary part of this, and it's kind of fun. It's like if you're a pyro in the leaves, this is probably my favorite part. They also have something called the stylus, and this actually is an Encaustic implement that I got from the art store. This allows me to draw really specific straight lines, and all I have to do is take a bit of Encaustic when this is hot that hasn't been melted yet, and just dip it in there and it'll fill right up, and it allows me to draw straight lines. So when I made this bowl here, you'll see this on your sample sheet there. I used the stylus to draw my flower petals. Now, it was a little high maintenance. I probably just as easily could have just taken the paintbrush and painted some of that on there. I'll pass this around. This has been finished on the inside with walnut. The reason that I use pine bowls, because I don't turn pine. I don't like that it's sappy, I don't like that it's boring. Boring is perfect for this. I'm not better at this yet because wood is so beautiful. And I just don't ever want to cover it up. So I'll turn something and I think, yay, I'm going to experiment today, and then it turns out to be beautiful. And I just don't want to put anything on it. So a neighbor called me and had some sugar pine. And honestly, I only turned it just to thank him as a gesture for thinking about me. And I was so excited when it came out to be boring. And it turned so easy. If you guys have ever turned softwood, well, of course, you've turned everything. You know, this was the breeze. I did learn, Bill Jewell told me that it's better to have rounded edges because pine can chip. So when I did the bowl that we're going to work on tonight, I did a nice curved rim. So that's what we will play with. I'll pass this around. Here's one of the things that I love about this the most. You can paint any bowl with paint. But you're not going to hand it to somebody and say, please handle this. Please get your hand oils all over it. Please, rub it and enjoy it. The more you rub this thing, the better it gets because the oils on your hand are actually a gloss for the wax. So, and it's kind of just such a cool, tactile, nature feel to it, too. I love it. You can see the steps on the handout of what I did with that. So I basically took the bare bowl, and here's another awesome thing, especially if you're me, you don't want to sand it because you want the wax to adhere to it. So if you felt the outside of this bowl right now, you would think I should be embarrassed to bring it in here without having sanded it, but it's fantastic because it's a little rough. It also had a little sap mark right here, which was probably going to split that. So I went ahead and I put my glue in there, and I didn't have to do anything to it. I didn't have to buff it or heal it or anything, because it's just going to cover with wax. I even, as an experiment, brought one that is a throwaway bowl. So this is just, it's not cracked because I did it wrong. It's plenty deep. It just had a flaw on the bottom. So I went ahead and put glue on that and didn't do anything else to seal it. This is one that I would paint on the inside and the outside. Stop yawning. It's way more interesting than that. Okay, I'm going to pass some more of these around as I start to paint. This one, you can see that as you start to melt them, sometimes they'll melt together in these crazy cool patterns. This one I actually, you can take anything like this. I just went through the kitchen and started picking up butter knives and stuff. You can dig out little troughs in your wax once you've built it up a little bit, and then I take these, which are oil sticks. So you can use anything that's water-based or oil-based, but you don't want to use acrylic because acrylic is not absorbent. So acrylic is really the only rule for all of this. It's the no-no. So I rubbed in the oil wax into these grooves and then laid a layer of wax over that and sealed it. You want to be sure that you heat in between every layer. Think of it as a biscuit instead of a pastry. So if you do a pastry, you do a layer, but you don't heat it, you do another one. Eventually they're going to peel apart. Wonderful with a biscuit if it's a pastry, but you want it to be a condensed, yes.
Looking at this kind of reminds me down in Mexico of folk art. The way it adheres to the bowl and
Right.
kind of the rustic look.
I love the rustic. You can really do painstaking work. Let me show you another example where you can get a perfectly smooth layer. I really do love the rustic where it's kind of pockmarked, and the neat thing about that is you can build up your layers so the colors that you might have done on an underlayer will start to show through. Now this is just a piece that I turned. I was trying one technique that didn't work, and so I sat it aside forever. It even had a little split on this thin layer that I had peeled off at the top. Well then, when I put this wax on it, that crack is gone.
Yeah.
You can't tell that it was ever there. And now this is art instead of trash.
Are any of those finishes you're talking about, are they caustic? Will they hurt you?
Oh, no. So encaustic is simply from the Greek word encaustikos that meant to burn in. So
Okay.
that's why it's called encaustic. It's actually not a caustic
But I mean, like-
substance.
Like
It's,
if I had some special children that I wanted to have them paint these for me,
Mhm. The only thing you would
could
have to
I
be
do
careful,
that?
you would be fine with everything except for the heat. You
The
just
heat,
have to be
okay.
careful about them
Yeah.
burning themselves. So always keep a fire extinguisher and fire blanket. I normally have a fire blanket beside my table at home, and I forgot to throw it in tonight. This is just, again, more of that same old pine that I did. And I threw it on the lathe, and it wanted to be a flower pot, but that was a little boring, and it was going to go in the yard anyway, so I dressed it up, which I just think is really cool. I've got watercolor pens here. I have graphite. You can take graphite and just scrape it off on there so it almost looks like pepper in your wax. You can come up with all these cool techniques. Do you know what block printing is? So you can carve out your own blocks. So tonight, while I was waiting on you guys, I made just a little tree, carved out a little tree, and started to decorate around the outside of this bowl. So this has been pre-treated with encaustic gesso, so it's not acrylic, but it dries faster than an oil-based. And so I just went ahead and created a white layer in the background. Now, you can see on the ones that I'm passing around that the wood kind of shows through. If you want your colors to really pop and be bright, then you might want to put a white layer down first. Well, I have white encaustic wax, but this stuff is expensive. So this is way cheaper to just put a layer of gesso on there, and then you can paint on it. I just took my little thing and stamped it around it and added some color to this. So this is watercolor. Yeah.
So is that like the gesso that you put on the, you grab a canvas with?
Yeah. Yeah.
the gold, is that an oil pin?
It is this. So it's wax. It's just wax that has gold paint in it. You can actually take, if you've got old oil paints laying around, you can lay them out on a napkin overnight, and it's going to seep most of that oil out of it, but the pigment will remain. And you can stir it in with some of this wax and make your own. But you can also buy it at the store. If you buy it at the store, I highly recommend that you add some of the just basic medium to it, because it'll stretch it and make it go.
So you mix gesso with the beeswax?
No.
Okay, yeah, because
Gesso
that's
is
acrylic
only-
gesso, it's water soluble, yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the gesso is just painted on the
Okay.
exterior of the bowl.
Like canvas, yeah.
And then I painted on top of that, and then I took, you just want to
Layer.
spray a fixative over it because watercolor will spread. So now that I've done this, just take this and paint over the top of it. And see, it's preserving my picture underneath it. Now, I could have painted this whole thing. You could do so many things to this. You could take a marker. This is the only thing that I know of that would be caustic. This is a chemical, obviously. This is a marker. You could write a letter to somebody on your bowl. I've done this with a lampshade at my house, for the guest room. The whole thing around is a note to my guest. You could just circle around the bowl, or happy birthday, happy graduation, whatever it might be. You can even use photographs. You can use napkins. Look at this. So this, if I take this napkin and I peel it down to where it's single ply, and then I lay it into the wax, it becomes part of the I've got a whole box of things that are just cool things that are either stamps where I can add letters. This whole box here is little doodads that, these are stamps, letter stamps. These are buttons. You can adhere things with the wax. Yeah, you get the idea. This one, see this one, I made this cool cloud. This is a tree stamp, and I added a little thingy saying on it. But these are my practice boards, but you can do the same things on bowls. I'll just start to pass these around. This is photography. So you can actually do this over photography. There's all sorts of photography lift techniques to where you can use laser paper and peel away the paper. So you can actually leave your own photographs on the bowls that you make. It's just so cool. All right, this one, if you look closely at it, you'll see that there's a little piece of newsprint in the background, so you can enmesh things that might mean something to someone, or or whatever. I tried on the bowl that's going around that has the daisies, kind of a 70s theme almost. Yeah, that one. If you looked at it closely, you would see there's a little bit of newspaper puffed up on one side of it. I didn't love the effect on a bowl, just because you've already got that curved surface. There are definitely challenges to working on a curved surface versus working on a flat. It wants to run down, so you have to be really slow about what you do. So I'll just start these around. You can do straight lines. You just tape off where you want your line to go, right on top of the wax. Put a layer of wax down, peel your tape away. You've got straight lines. You'll find that whenever you put a color on top of white, the white wants to be supreme, so it kind of, punches up through it and creates some neat effects. So these are all just cool, colorful possibilities. Let's see. So this one is I just like the color combinations. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of show you what it looks like when you apply heat on here. It helps for you to preheat your bowl just a little bit wherever you're getting ready to apply the wax, because it helps the wax spread a little better. I turned this bowl this morning. It's straight off of the tree coming down, soaking wet. So this is a green bowl. That one that was already passed around that's about this size was also done the same way, same tree. I don't know if it's the heat of the wax or what, but I mean, it was dry in no time. I turned it thin, of course, but it actually seems to help with the fact that I turned a green bowl, and you'll see that it didn't work much, even though it's pine. So you're just gonna, now this stuff dries fast, so you don't have to worry for a long time about it dripping. Tape off your edges or else you'll have a mess. I learned that the hard way. And you just go around. You want to get it nice down. One of the reasons why you don't sand is so that it's going to get all the way down. But you're going to do several layers of this, so you don't really have to be too persnickety about it. And you can see how fast that's settling into place.
Do you ever heat your wood edge prior to it a little bit?
Yeah, actually, it would be better if I went, by the time I've heated it and I've gone around to the other side, it's already cool already. So just for expediency, I'm kind of skipping that step. I suppose you could put it on low grade in the oven or something and have it legit warm, but so I just get it all the way on there. And then, now is when you have to kind of decide, am I going for a super smooth technique, or is it okay if it's gonna be a little bumpy? If you want it super smooth, this was, you know how when you buy tablecloths and they give you this little thing to clip it on? Well, you just want a scraper of some sort. Now they make scrapers. I have some actually here that are actual scrapers. Yeah, there they are. So they're like this, or you can just find whatever works around your house. It's basically the same thing. And just scrape away while it's a little soft, the little high points, if you want to. And at this point, that wax is salvageable. So I just knock it off onto a pan, and then you can return it into your wax. So now is when you want to, let me try not to drag things off here. This you want to be a little more careful about. You're not melting it off of the bowl. You can melt it off the bowl if that's the effect that you want. You just want it to turn molten, so it's going to glisten when you hit that point. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on the camera, but I can see right now. Right now it's got a little sheen on it. So I'm just going to move around. I want to hit every point. And if you get a nice rolling motion with this, and you just go from one place to the next, you won't get so many bubbles. So some people don't want the bubbles, some people don't care about the bubbles. The bubbles help to make that puckered effect that we were talking about earlier. Now, if I want to melt it all the way down to where it's just got a little less of a ridge, you're running the risk of it running and really creating a ridge, but now's when you do it. So just want to make sure that you've hit every point on here.
Can you set this down overnight and come back to it the next day?
Yeah, you can.
It's not a problem.
Nope. It's not going to cure for anywhere from a week to 3 weeks, like fully, and even then, you could come back and hit it with heat. And that's the great thing about this, is if you just don't like it, you can set it aside. Another thing is that you can always scrape off and start over. You don't have to fully scrape it, all you do is cover it. So you just cover it up and go some more. And one of the nice things, depending on what you're doing on the top, the more layers that you add, the more depth that you end up with, the more colors that are going to peek through, which is kind of cool. So I can shift because that hardens so fast. Okay. So we've done that once. I'm going to do one more clear layer. Try not to splash this stuff around. And then, it doesn't matter if I'm dripping into anything else right now, because all this encaustic medium does is it stems anything that it's added to. It'll just make more of it. Once you have colors that you're adding, then you don't really want to drip those onto other colors. You can mix your colors though. If you wanted to add 2 colors to create a third, you can do it. So this is kind of like watching paint dry. I actually like it though because you can follow the line as it's starting to glisten. You can see it happen. And it's kind of cool because it immediately hardens as soon as you take the heat off of it. All right, so all of that. Are you kind of getting what I mean about, okay. So now, one of the examples, let's see, for me to show this, we'd have to switch something, wouldn't we? All right, but I won't show it. Yeah. There are some that are just really bright and colorful. So let's add some bright color under here. So the woman that, doesn't matter. The woman that,
Design opportunity.
right? The woman that Neil mentioned is an encaustic artist that lives near him, and she has become a mentor of mine. And she says that the museums are looking for things that are not craft. So the more edgy, the more abstract that you get, the better for them. You know, I mean, you can see I do cutesy flowers and craft stuff like that, but it just goes to show that there's really no wrong answer. You can do this however you want to, and your art is the perfect art.
Is that paint you're putting on or paint and wax?
This is paint and wax. So this is called encaustic paint. And it's just a blend of the two, and it comes in things like this. So you can even take this and sit it on the hot plate, and boom, it's immediately spreadable. Or you can put it in one of these tins and melt it down, and then you've got something that you can dip your paintbrush into a little more effectively. They also come in tins like this, little ones, and so you can use small paintbrushes for those. After you're done, you can pour them into molds. Like I have these cupcake thingies that are silicone,
Yeah.
and you just create your own little molds with your offshoots and leftovers, and you know, you can have bins and bins of these colors that are just colors that you've come up with from mixing other stuff. So you want to keep your paintbrushes on the hot plate too, because it's got wax in that paint. If this was hardened, it wouldn't spread well at all. It would spread kind of like that block just did. But, so I'm just going to throw a bunch of mishmash colors on here real quick. I thought I had thrown some red on here, but I didn't melt the red yet, so there we have it. But you can see how this just opens up so many possibilities for bowls, because it's fun and it's cool and nobody else is doing it. But they will be soon. We are going to make a splash. All right, so now I'm going to heat those in. Always use your low setting, because the air of your high setting is going to create bubbles. All right, so I don't have to do the whole thing again. I just have to do where the paint was added. And you're the artist, so you kind of get to decide when you're done. I don't know if you can see here, but you can see how the more you add it, that's all right. You want to just heat it until it glistens, or else it'll drip like that. That's actually a perfect lesson. If you want it to be smooth, you really test how far away you need to be to move into the little pockets to fill what you need to fill.
Are those encaustic paints expensive?
They can be. So you can get varying sizes. The place that I found locally that sells them is University Art, which is in Sacramento. When I ordered this, well, I bought this big sack of medium from that store, and then I went home and I found out that I could have gotten it cheaper with Amazon delivering it to my door. So, check both.
Cheaper, yes.
Okay, now I'm going to Where's mine? I didn't note that yet. So, I'm gonna open a new brush. My brushes are here. So just get, you want to use natural bristle brushes. You don't want to have synthetic. Synthetic will melt. All right. So I'm going to cover this whole shebang in white. I want you to see what happens. Now, it's probably better for this to sit a little longer than I can let it sit in a demo to cool off. Because this is, the underlayer is still warm, so it's smearing a little bit. And that's not necessarily what you want.
Cheryl, do you always hold the piece in your hand when working it, or do you, like a flat one, do you use that on?
The reason that I do it is because I don't want to create a place where paint has settled on the table.
Okay.
If you were going to do that though, be sure that you use wax paper for two reasons. One, so that it won't stick, and two, so that you can go pick up those chips that have drifted off and re-add them into your paint. It's expensive enough that you want to conserve what you can.
The silicone pads would work the same way with it as wax paper.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to apply heat to this. And you're going to see some of those colors possibly. One of the cool things is that when you get a bunch of layers on here, I mean, some people will go 10 layers deep. And then you scrape through it, and all of those under layers will start to emerge. You can kind of tell what you've covered already by how glistening it is. You can take a dot and put it onto white and watch it spread. And then, like I told you, the white wants to be cream, so it'll start to come up through there and give you this bloom effect. It's really cool if you add things to the outside. All right. So can you kind of tell what that's doing there? Where it's,
Yeah.
looks like it's been shot. So I'm going to let, let's see. I think what I'm going to do is continue to work on this while we do like show and tell and stuff like that. I've passed around everything that I meant to pass around. Then I'm just going to play around with a couple of the things that I have up here and see what happens. So y'all kind of have a pretty good grasp of what the techniques are and what can be done and what it looks like when it's done. So I'll just keep playing, and if you have any questions, then fire away. So I'm pretty much done because I'm gonna let my waxes start cooling off so that I can transport them. So you can see that with the luxury of a little bit more time than this, you can get super creative, come up with all kinds of effects, be less messy. This was fun. This was really fun. So on your resource sheet, you'll see this book mentioned, and it'll take you from A to Z. It tells you everything about the supplies that you need and the techniques that you could learn, and then you just apply them to bowls. So encaustic is not a new thing. Turns out the Greeks thought of it first. A lot of artists are doing encaustic, but you will find that encaustic bowls are a rarity. So we have a little window to do something cool that not many people are doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.